Welcome to Compass Points, the weekly podcast for CompassKnox.com. CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. You can find their daily in-depth coverage and subscribe at CompassKnox.com.
Welcome to Compass Points, a podcast about Knoxville and Knox County government, politics, business, education, and just about anything else that grabs our attention. I am Scott Barker, editor of Compass, which is a subscription-based website and newsletter where we report on all of these topics and more. You can find us at CompassKnox.com. Joined as always by Compass co-founder Jesse Mayshark. Jesse, how are you doing this fine Friday morning when we're taping this?
I'm doing fine. I can't say that I have nothing to complain about, though, because I do have something to complain about, and that is flat tires. This week, I had my second flat tire in about 2 months. The previous one, I took it in, and there was a screw in it, and they took it out and patched it. I went back, and it was the same tire they had patched before. It had been rotated. It wasn't even in the same place on the car, but somehow that tire must have been a magnet or something. This time, it had a nail and 2 random pieces of metal stuck in it. And they were like, we patched this before, but we don't think we can do it again. So I had to buy a whole new tire this time. Although they treated me great. Shout out to Fisher Tire on North Broadway. Not a paid announcement or anything. They're just a great local neighborhood business up there in North Knoxville. Good people. So I did get a new tire, and hopefully I'll manage to not run over more things. But I was talking with the folks there, and you know, a lot of this is just a product of the amount of construction going on in Knoxville and Knox County everywhere. And we've got all these work trucks bouncing all over the roads everywhere and bits and pieces falling off of them. And then they're just scattered across our streets and highways. And I'm finding a lot of them. So,
well, speaking of Fisher, to continue the unpaid advertisement, and I may have shared this before, but several years ago, there was a tire place near us in North Knoxville that was offering a free oil change. I believe it was free. And so I went down and got my oil changed. And usually I get it changed at Fisher, but I went there. Then went up and went to pick up the car. I had to drop it off. I went to pick it up. And they said, "You got issues here, buddy." "Oh, really?" I said, "Yeah." I said, and they showed me I had a nail head. My tires said, "You've got a nail in your tire." I said, "Huh?" I said, "It was the it's pressure's not low or anything, and brought it down. It didn't looked fine." I said, "Well, I'm just going to drive it off, and we'll see what happens to it." So I took it up Fisher, and they took a look at it, and there was a nail head. The nail itself, the sharp part, had been broken off, and they had just wedged the head up between a tread to make it look like there was a nail in there.
They were trying to sell you a tire that you didn't need.
They were trying to sell me tires, and the folks at Fisher, they said, "Yeah, you've got no problem at all." I said, "Great. What do I owe you for nothing?"
Yeah.
They're just, we go there. Yeah, that's our local tire and oil change and yada yada thing.
That's right. Support your local businesses.
Absolutely. So anyway, that bit of business out of the way. Well,
this episode brought to you by Firestone Tire Changer.
Anyway, we are recording Compass Points as always, almost always. Sometimes we're remote, but this time we are where we're supposed to be, which is the opulent studios of Barbarian Productions. And Lord Seth Barber, the ruler of Barbarian Productions, is here. And Seth, how How are you doing this week?
Doing good. As you've noticed, things are getting a little tight, so I've been having to peel off some of this gold plating and stuff like that and sell it off to pay the electric bill and stuff like that so we can keep doing what we're doing. But, the economy is what it is, and we gotta work our way through things.
You send in the gold plating up to D.C. I think there's a lot of demand for it up around the White House these days.
You sell it top dollar where the demand is. But a little bit of a cool-off a couple times. We're starting to get those points.
So nice. The mornings have been beautiful.
Right, the points in the evening and the morning, we're like, oh, okay. This million-degree summer might actually come to an end at some point. All right. So I've been enjoying that this week for sure. Beautiful sunny day Friday here out in the wonderful, glorious Rocky Hill neighborhood. So can't complain, I suppose, is the general on the weather this
because
week.
You haven't had a flat tire.
Well, it's true. And despite all the construction that I've been doing around this house, getting away with that's usually harder. Because what I was thinking about when you were talking about, too, is the other one that you see a lot of because of all the construction or all these dumpster trucks full of, remodel debris and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We've had like the construction work on or around the roads, a number of things like down in the holler, there's that big apartment complex, condos getting built out. They shut down half of Central for a number of days this week because they were doing roofing and stuff like that, and they needed some extra load space. And it's like, I drive through there all the time. It's like, it's definitely a gamble on your tires running around this town right now.
This is one of the hidden costs of growth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and whatever. I'm not going to go there. We'll leave the infrastructure part of the argument out of the play. But yes, construction costs tires for sure.
Well, all right. Well, government costs too. Let me tell you. And, we've been watching some of that. Anyway, we'll start. We're going to cover several things this morning. We're going to early voting. This podcast lands on Sunday afternoon. Early voting will have ended on Saturday. We'll talk a little bit about that. Tennessee is a finalist for a DOE nuclear campus initiative. It's supposedly going to be billions of dollars, and who knows what else is going to go with it. We'll take a quick look at that. The county commission met last week, and boy, did they do a bunch of stuff. One of the things that they did was they changed their method for approving a budget. They passed on first reading the method of approving the budget. There has been one vote. Now it's going to be 2 votes if it passes on second reading. We'll talk about that. The wheels came off of Larson J's wheel tax repeal proposal, and so we'll look at that. Talk about the discussion and what went on with that. The big thing, of course, dominated the conversation in the county for a couple of weeks. The surveillance cameras, and we've got all kinds of things to talk about with the sheriff's office proposal or not proposal, they're doing it, apparently still going to be doing it eventually, to open a facility similar to the city's real-time crime center, where they look at videos and stuff. But the big thing that makes it real controversial for a lot of people is the use of license plate reader cameras. They're going to have a network of those. They're planning to deploy them, and there's a lot of controversy around that. A lot of people are objecting to it. The commission was going to have a workshop about it on Monday prior to their voting meeting, and on the voting meeting agenda was a resolution calling for a workshop. So it would have given them the opportunity to go ahead and get that out of the way and make that kind of a moot resolution. But the sheriff's office, after saying that earlier in the week that they would be there, and representatives from Flock Safety, the company that provides the cameras, and the controversy around this, would be there, but then they said no, it won't. And so
I think they said they couldn't have all of the people they needed there. Right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like they said, no, we're just not going to come talk to you, but like we can't be there that day.
Yeah, and including the flock representatives. That was one of the things that they did say, is that that they wouldn't. Anyway, and we reported this in our last podcast. Gina Oster, the chair of the commission, just went ahead and canceled it, said we'll reschedule. So Monday rolled around, and Adam Thompson, who is the most outspoken critic of the flock safety cameras on county commission, was proposing an outright ban on all these types of surveillance cameras, with a couple of exceptions. I was going to still allow them on drones, for example, but for the most part, these license plate readers would be banned in the county. Period. And he wanted to get that done. Then we had Don Jacobs was a coworker of mine when I was at the News Sentinel.
Don Jacobs was a great cops reporter.
Absolutely a fantastic one. I bet he doesn't listen to us because he probably doesn't care anymore. But he was a great guy and a great reporter. And I sat next to him in the newsroom at the News Sentinel when I first started, and learned a lot about being a reporter just by osmosis. Sitting next to him and learning about him. Anyway, but he wasn't the one who came down to the county commission meeting. Glenn Jacobs, the Knox County mayor, did, which
the Knox County mayor for one more month.
That makes a lot more sense. Anyway, he came down to give kind of a press conference, met with reporters right before the voting meeting. And he basically outlined his support for a ban. He is very, very much against this network of cameras. One of the main reasons he has for opposing it is that this is a comprehensive network that will go basically. He's saying would enable them to follow cars around because these take still photos and put them in a database, and you can automatically if it matches a tag number or license plate number on a hot list that is also in the database, then notifies the agency immediately where that vehicle is. And by virtue of that, Jacobs is concerned that you would be able to be followed all through Knox County, wherever these are, essentially, and that that's one of his primary concerns, as well as some of the documented issues that Flock has had. We'll get to those in a minute too. Anyway, he had that press conference. One of the things that we asked him about in that is, how much would it cost to terminate this thing? Because there was a $1.6 million grant from the state of Tennessee that's paying for it. And the rollout and the first 3 years of operations of this what they're calling the Advanced Research and Communications Center, the ARC Center, but they've spent. Jacob said he thought that they had spent about $800,000 of that so far, so that leaves another $800,000 that they hadn't spent if he's accurate. And one of the reasons we don't know if he's accurate is the sheriff's office has not been forthcoming on what it would cost to get out of this. I have asked them repeatedly to to share with us what it would cost, what they estimate it would cost to get out of the this whole deal, and not only what it would cost to get out of the grant, but also their contract Flock, which is our understanding is it's a 10-year contract. The first 3 years, of course, paid for by the grant, and who knows what happens with it. And then also the sheriff's office has said that if they don't get this, they need to hire more people. They haven't been able to justify that. I don't know why they would need to hire more people, but they say they would. So, but they won't. Also, haven't put a dollar figure on it. It was very frustrating as a reporter when you try to let the public know, okay, it's all well and good to ban these things, but or terminate the deal, but how much is it going to cost? And one thing we do know, well, I mean, the grant, the conditions of grant indicate that if they can't fulfill it, what hasn't been spent would have to go back to the state. So at least $800,000 would have to go back. And if they don't do it at all, I don't know, what the status is of the $800,000 they've already spent. That may be an unforeseen occurrence in this thing. Anyway, going on to the meeting. One of the things that that they had to do, Thompson wanted to go ahead and put in a ban on these altogether, like said earlier, and it seems that was motivated primarily by the cancellation of the workshop. He said that he had this resolution, actually it had to be an ordinance, but prepared for some time, but hadn't brought it forward, apparently in thinking that they would be getting some answers from Flock and KCSO before we went going. But he wanted to put it on the agenda last Monday as an emergency ordinance. That's an emergency measure. And the interesting thing about that is, first of all, they could go ahead and do that. It would need to have to pass on first reading, of course. But what happens if you want to put something on the agenda as an emergency ordinance, it has to be with the unanimous consent of all county commissioners.
Right, because it hasn't been publicly noticed. There's no forewarning to anybody that this is going to be voted on.
Yeah, the general public did not know. I didn't see it until he had hard copy there he had hard copies there at the meeting, and anyway, the vote wasn't unanimous to put it on the agenda. Oster, Larson J., Shane Jackson, Terry Hill all voted against putting it on the agenda. Didn't say so later in the meeting. One of the things that he didn't say so at the time. Later in the meeting, Larson J. Said, one of the things that he really hates doing is voting on something that he's seen for the first time that day, and he wasn't comfortable doing that. So, anyway, that didn't get on the agenda. But later on in the meeting, we had Thompson's resolution to call for the work session that got canceled earlier today. It was very confusing time, and he kind of went off. He said he didn't want a confrontation, and this was just because his constituents didn't like it. But he was pretty angry. And one of the things he did was he ran through a lot of the issues that Flock cameras have raised in other places. And the Flock cameras are pretty controversial throughout the country. One of the interesting things was CNN had a story yesterday on Thursday on kind of the pushback across the nation on flock cameras, and it's pretty extensive. It was kind of interesting. They had a kind of a rundown, and these are not. This isn't just the local governments pushing back against it, and although some are dropping contracts and things like that, but they ran through a list of some issues. One person cut down some of the cameras in New York. They've been in California, had some paint thrown at their cameras. One guy is in a lawn chair in Florida.
This was my favorite story.
Yeah, holding up a cardboard sign to block a flock camera's recording of things. And there are 120,000 of these across the country. Between those, and they also do the pole mounted cameras. Between the two, they've had 120,000 of them. And here's the thing that really is really, when you boil away everything, because we talked about this last week. There is so far the courts have upheld these things as being constitutional because you're in public. They're taking images of vehicles in public. In public, you have no expectation of privacy, and they've also ruled that just because a technology moves faster than we'd like it to move does not mean it's unconstitutional. It's still constitutional. So there's all this stuff, but what the flock cameras do, and this is what the complaints really end up boiling down to. Other than there's the creepy factor of Big Brother watching what everybody's doing, but the thing is what you do with the data. And one of the things about the flock cameras is the data goes into a nationwide database that all flock clients can access. And so the sheriff's offices already have flock cameras, and they're already operational, so they're already kind of part of this. But what that means is that they can go and someone else in another jurisdiction can go and look at Knox County's data. And this is kind of a weird thing, and officers can, depending on their jurisdiction and what policies are in place, they can just access it and put a tag number in the hot list, and it'll hit anywhere in the country. So if, for example, there is a domestic dispute between an officer and their significant other, and their significant other leaves, and they go away somewhere, and this officer wants to find out where they are, by golly, put their license tag number in this, and if they're across the country in a jurisdiction that uses flock cameras, it'll ping and pop up.
And that's not a hypothetical situation.
It is not a hypothetical situation. This is one of the there's a media outlet called 404 Media. They documented at least a dozen cases, places where either officers have been sued or arrested for misusing the flock data system, the database,
for their personal
use, and there are other things too. One of the things is that are troubling is that immigration officials are using them.
Presumably the FBI can get access to this, right? So Kash Patel can jump on there and see what you're up to.
Kash knows where you're going and when you're going there, and if you're on the hot list, and
he can put you on the hot list.
He can put you on the hot list, and that's another thing, especially when you're dealing with elected sheriffs, and not saying anything disparaging about Tom Spangler, the current sheriff, or Brent Gibson, the presumed next sheriff, essentially the sheriff-elect. But there have been sheriffs in Tennessee who've been known to track activities of their political rivals. You could, and they could certainly do that. They can put the plate numbers of either somebody who might run for sheriff in the future or county commissioners who might vote for them or against them. They might, and they can, and who knows what, they would pop up there.
Right. You could do fishing expeditions, basically.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of potential for abuse, and in some agencies they have gone from potential to actual abuse, and it's one thing that really kind of separates Flock too from some of the others. Of course, this one of the things in that CNN article is they talked about how city governments are pushing back against it, and they listed some, included Knoxville. And at first I went, does he confuse Knox County with Knoxville? And I don't think so. I think the one thing, because Knoxville, the city of Knoxville Police Department had a contract with Flock. They were using their license plate readers. But then they switched to a company called Axon Enterprise, and we actually talked about this when they did it. But they didn't do it because of problems necessarily with Flock, however. That kind of needs to be the implication in CNN's article was that they had issues with Flock, and I don't know if they may have, but the stated reason for making the change was all their other cameras are Axon cameras. There were
the body cams, the dashboards,
dashboard cams, everything else. And when they were switching over to the real-time information center, they wanted everything to be compatible, run seamlessly together, so they switched over to Axon license plate readers, and their Flock license plate readers now are they've given to the sheriff's office for them to use, but that's another story. Anyway, but the big key difference there is Axon does not. It's a closed system, so it's not a national. It's not.
Right. So KPD just has access to what's on their cameras, not to what's on Chattanooga's cameras or anywhere else.
Now there's still a possibility of abuse.
Right.
So local abuse.
I would wager that our friend Cash Patel could still get access to the KPD ones, even though they're not quote unquote.
I bet you're right.
One of the things is that doesn't.
If we're using the example, I just want to.
That doesn't prevent Cash Patel from requesting that KPD share information. It just means it just automatically doesn't share.
He can't just log in.
He can't just let's log in on
from whatever locker room he happens to be celebrating in at the time.
Now KPD does have what they call what they consider to be pretty good safeguard with that is whenever an officer enters it has to be a supervisor, enters a number into the hot list, they have to create a report stating this is what we're putting in, this is why we're doing it, like they have an outstanding warrant or whatever, but they're not supposed to they're supposed to be able to do that. One of the issues with the sheriff's office thing is they don't have a policy yet that they've shared. They've been drafting a policy, they said, but they don't have a policy ready to go yet.
Well, and that's really what Thompson initially was asking for was what are your policies? Come tell us, how are you using this? What are your policies? What are the safeguards? What are the guardrails and all of those things? And they haven't provided that.
Yeah. They said 2 weeks ago when they had the first meeting about this at the agenda review for county commission, they said, oh, well, we're working on it, and then they were supposed to be talking about it at this at the workshop on Monday, which got canceled. So there is no known thing there. One of the other things that Thompson's really mad about, and he kind of let it out. He kept saying, "I don't want to get in a fight with the sheriff's office. I'm not being confrontational." he's really angry that commission was kept in the dark as long as they were.
Yeah.
I mean, they
County commission being kept in the dark by the sheriff's office is not a new phenomenon, by the way.
it is not, but the
It's a long-standing tendency.
but the the grant that the sheriff's office received to pay for all this, county commission did approve in November of last year. Nowhere in the resolution accepting the grant or in most of the documentation of the grant does it say it's for surveillance use. It just says for fighting violent crime. Well, you read down into it, way into it, and then you see, they're going to, and it does lay out that they're going to be using cameras and stuff. But if you don't read down into it, if you don't really dig into it, you don't know that. And apparently no one did in the.
Would that include the sheriff's office? Didn't know that was not in there?
No, the sheriff's office, of course, knew.
And I think one of the complaints from Thompson being we didn't get this information and how it's not.
Well, commission didn't know.
Right, but I think it's one of those that it's like we support law enforcement, like we care about what you're doing. We want to give you things and make things better for you, but you got to talk to us.
Yeah.
Well, right,
yeah,
and that's I was going to make that point that this is something county commissioners sometimes have to learn the hard way, because a lot of county commissioners run for office very much on a pro law enforcement platform and say, I want to support the sheriff's office and make sure that our officers are paid well and have the best equipment and so on and so forth. And then they get into office and they find that sheriff's office that they ran on to support and that they've been very rah-rah about likes it when they do that. But as soon as they have any questions at all about what the sheriff's office is actually doing, things get a lot touchier. And this is far from the first time that a county commissioner has tried to get information from the sheriff's office and been rebuffed, ignored, dismissed. And, I have said before on this podcast that the Knox County Sheriff's Office is by far, historically, the least transparent, least responsive, least accountable major institution of local government that we have. I've known Knoxville for 30 years now. This has been true the entire time I've been in Knoxville.
Really?
It's just been like we could go back through the headlines from all the years of all the things the sheriff's office did not want to talk about, did not answer questions about, various scandals that came up and so forth. And, a certain amount of this is just structural because the sheriff is independently elected. County commission, the county mayor, they cannot tell the sheriff what to do. Unlike the city mayor, who can tell the police chief what to do because the police chief literally works for the city mayor.
The city mayor can fire the police chief.
That's right. The sheriff has a lot of autonomy. It's set up that way under state law. And county commission, the only real check that they have is literally the check, the money that they put in the budget every year for the sheriff's office. Beyond that, they don't really have any control over them. And our Knox County sheriffs have become accustomed over the years to just kind of doing what they want to do. And that will continue to be the case for every bit as long as Knox County residents are willing to put up with it. Yeah. So far, they've been willing to put up with an awful lot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we as journalists always get shut out from anything the sheriff's office.
Yeah.
It's a different. The county commissioners don't think they're going to, but they do. He treats, or the sheriffs historically have treated county commission just like they treat journalists for the most part.
We're all on a need-to-know basis, and we don't need to know.
We don't need to know. And like I said, I've asked the sheriff's office for and you would think the sheriff's office would want to get out. Okay, it's going to cost X amount of dollars. It's going to cost the taxpayers X amount of dollars if you want us to, cut this out. And you would think that if that's especially if it's a significant amount, which they are indicating it might be, they would want that information out. And why they haven't is, one of those things that I don't understand, but I'm used to.
I mean, a certain amount of it might just be that Spangler's in his last month as well, and his whole staff might just feel like, we haven't wanted to answer your questions in the past, and we're especially not going to answer them now because we're about to be out the door. I mean, this is essentially going to be incoming Sheriff Gibson's issue. To deal with.
They said at however they said at the agenda review meeting after they talked about it. This was 2 weeks ago. That we're going to be very transparent about this. We want to have a public-facing dashboard and yada yada. We're going to be, and they actually talked more than they've talked in a long time about anything to journalists. But it kind of goes back. It's been this, like you said, it's been this way forever. I remember one time I was trying to find out from the sheriff's office. I was at the News Sentinel. We were kind of doing, it's kind of an investigative thing, but it was, wanted to match up individual deputies with the vehicles that they had been assigned. So ask, okay, can you provide us with a list of the of deputies and the vehicles they've been assigned? And all you got back was, I got a response, which was, first of all, a triumph, but it was, no, we don't have that. Okay. So, and I sent an email back, and we were doing it. Okay, so I'm going to write this story, and the story's going to say that the Knox County Sheriff's Office does not know who has been assigned which vehicle, and so they don't know which deputies are out driving around which cruisers. That's what's going to be in the story. Then I got an email back. Oh, no. We know, but then they started coming. Okay, what we do is we keep it by badge number. So badge number and vehicle are aligned. I said, well,
do you know who has the badge numbers?
Yeah. Well, and then of course, then what happened was we don't have a master list of it. You have to go through their files. So ask for the files, and another reporter and I were working on it. A reporter who lived here in Rocky Hill, as a matter of fact.
Excellent.
But we got 30-something legal boxes of materials, so we had to go through a document dump.
That's how they do.
But anyway, so all that goes to saying that the sheriff's office isn't very transparent and never has been. And that's been really galling to Thompson. But like you said, it's kind of what they do. It's how they roll.
And this is, if our incoming Sheriff Brent Gibson is looking for an easy way to distinguish and differentiate himself from his predecessors, this would be an area he could do it in if he wanted to.
Yes, but one of the things is Gibson hasn't spoken publicly about it.
Yeah,
so, that's and in a way, you kind of don't blame him. It's like, oh man, I'm gonna let Spangler take all the heat for this,
especially because he doesn't even have an opponent in the August 6th election. So there's if there was anybody else on the ballot running against him who was out there making statements about it, that would probably compel him to say something, but there's not. So it's probably, I understand the politics of him just keeping his mouth closed about it for the moment.
Yeah. But, like I said, he will have the opportunity to be more transparent than his predecessors.
It's a low bar.
It is. Anyway, this is all this stuff that happened last week. One of they did reschedule the work session for the sheriff's office and the flock representatives to share information, to be however transparent they're going to be. It's going to be at that meeting, and it's going to be on the 24th, on Monday, the August 24th. Which is a week before the voting meeting next month. So if Thompson wants to get his band back on the on track, he can put it on the agenda for that, because it never got on the agenda. I mean, if it got voted down, it'd be a different story. But it didn't get voted down; it just didn't get on the agenda. So So he would still be able to put that ban on the agenda as a regular ordinance, which would take 2 readings, but first reading in August if he wants to. But the CEO of Flock is apparently going to be there if he can, but Flock representatives will be there, and the sheriff's office representatives. One of the funny things was during the meeting last Monday, Commissioner Shane Jackson called out the CEO. He addressed him specifically. He wasn't in the room, of course, and said, "Hey, you need to be here and answer questions and that sort of thing." And so apparently he's getting his wish.
I think Flock is taking this seriously, not just here, but all over the country, because they are, as you said, that CNN story showed, they're kind of in the crosshairs of a lot of people right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because this has been, developing over many years, but it seems to, for various reasons, I think also maybe related to people being uncomfortable with AI and uncomfortable with data centers, just kind of this sense that all of this technology is looming up around us that some people think maybe has more peril than promise. But I think Flock, I'm going to guess, is in a sort of all hands on deck situation to try to protect their existing contracts and their ability to grow. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of messaging they have, what kind of reassurances they want to bring to people.
Yeah, it's in Knox County's not. Compared to some of the places, Houston, Texas uses Flock cameras. Now they would be really concerned if Houston, Texas.
Yeah, that's a big contract.
I don't know how big Knox County's is for them. It's a decent sized one, I would imagine. So they will.
But it's probably more about setting the precedent. It's one of many cases that are probably going around right now for them that they don't want the precedent set that municipalities are going to kick them out.
Yeah.
Because then other municipalities who they might be quote unquote comfortable in might be like, oh, okay, maybe we need to backward roll this back, and maybe the public outcry is worth listening to.
Yeah.
And I think that's my guess on what Flock's position is. And I would say Flock's also the poster child for the Axons and the other players in the game too. They're just the ones getting all the media attention. And
right, because people especially are worked up about Flock, but in general, people just don't like license plate readers. And I was thinking about this week. When I worked at the city, of course, the city of Knoxville has red light cameras at a handful of intersections around town, and boy, people hate those red light cameras. Yeah. And when I was at the city, we got a lot of grief from people, and you had there were some state representatives who were going online making videos burning tickets they'd gotten from red light cameras, telling people you don't have to pay these. I think that one thing going on with cameras related to cars specifically, because there's other kind of cameras, as you mentioned, Scott, there's cameras on drones that you can send to the scene of an incident or whatever. I think that cars, people feel a great, even though, yes, you're in public when you're in your car, but your experience of that is you're in your car in public. And I think a lot of us have a sense, the car is like an extension of our personal space. We leave the house, we get in the car, and we kind of carry our personal space with us.
Yes.
And so people feel very proprietary about their cars. And
legally speaking, that's somewhat true.
Right.
You have castle doctrine that continues into your vehicle.
To some degree.
On certain specific things, but there is legal precedent for the concept of
it is your personal
this
property.
is my private space.
And I think that just really feeds into, it feels personally invasive to people.
And it's in the CNN article that I was citing mentions that idea that that the vehicle is an extension of the home when people go, and it is, and to a certain extent, yes. You have to have even if some officers have to have permission or a warrant or probable cause to search your car, and
or even to pull you over. Although that
they're supposed to have
that can be pretty loose.
Yeah, they're supposed to have probable cause to pull you over too. But they don't need probable cause to just watch people. That's never been, and that's the problem that people are having, and this goes to the technology problem, or the technology issue that people have. They don't need a warrant. A cop can follow you around at 5 paces all day long, every day, and they are not violating your constitutional rights as long as you're in public.
Right.
They can do that. There is nothing other than budgetary constraints keeping them from having someone just, and you see it in movies and stuff all the time where there's staking out somebody. Well, they don't need a warrant to stake out somebody. They don't need a warrant to follow you around. And so they also don't need a warrant to look at your license tag on your car. And that's different. One of the things about that that's kind of different that we don't think about as being different is, the inside of my car is my space. This is outside the car. This is, one of the reasons that people put bumper stickers on their cars so other people will see them. So,
well, I think that points out two things. I apologize. I know this is into the rabbit hole on some of this. Two things is, one, this reference to license plate readers is a little bit of a misnomer, because as mentioned last week, it will identify the back end of your car and the contents thereof. The license plate being part of that, bumper stickers being part of that,
the make and model,
a dent and other assorted things that make your specific whatever make model of car specific on top of that. But two, I think it's the idea for me, it's this warrantless or probable causeless knowledge that they have of my comings and goings. And I think that's continues on Jesse's idea. Yes, the car itself is a safe space, but secondly, it's like for any given reason at any given point in time, you can know where I am. That I think makes people uncomfortable.
Oh, absolutely makes people uncomfortable.
Especially they just with no secondary process, even though yes, it's technically constitutionally legal, no secondary process to just say, hey, where is he right now? And they can at least pull up the last 20 cameras that have seen you and go, okay, well, he's going this direction. Sit into that database and go, okay, well, every time he does this is where he ends up. This is where the next camera sees him. So they can figure out your house patterns or your movement patterns as a regular person. Again, no probable cause, no warrant, whatever reason they feel like doing stuff. Pile those things on top of each other. People get really wonky about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And again, I think rightfully so. And I think this is it's interesting to me how slow we've gotten to get to this level. Like, I feel like Jesse said before, like, this is not new stuff. Yeah. It's getting better and more complicated, but this is not new stuff. But, like, just now, all of a sudden, it's like, whoa. And not just here with a very specific current we have, but, like, nationally, it's just all of a sudden become, whoa, what is going on? How did we get to here? Yeah. It's like, well, these are the steps that we all just...
Well, and I think there's a broader sort of... We're in another moment. We go through these moments periodically in our history with technology, but we're clearly in another one now where there are a lot of people in this country, and Scott, as you were saying, it's interesting that it's very much a bipartisan consensus. There's a lot of discomfort. It's like, what are we doing? Like the data centers, the AI, like all of this stuff feels like people and the license plate readers. We can imagine why all of these things are useful and helpful to somebody. They're useful and helpful to law enforcement. Like AI is useful and helpful maybe to somebody who owns a giant company and is going to be able to replace half their workforce or whatever. But the individual person looks at a lot of this stuff and is like, what am I getting? Like, I'm giving up a lot of things here. What am I getting for it? And I think right now we're at a point where a lot of people are saying, I'm not sure that these trade-offs are actually beneficial to me.
Yeah. One of the things that the law enforcement agencies will say, and they're accurate in this, is that these help them find children who are missing or abducted. It helps them, and they have documented that. It's documented that it helps find adults who have gone off and you don't know where they are.
Right, the silver alerts.
And they help with arresting or finding people who have outstanding warrants for violent crimes. All those things are true. And so it's one of those things that they're saying, hey, this really helps us, and it helps you as a citizen be safer. And the question then becomes, of course, what price is that safety? And that's
Yeah.
one of the things here.
And also,
it's
what are
also-
the crimes being investigated? Because there's the case in Texas where it appears that they used license plate readers to try to track somebody who maybe left Texas to go to another state to have an abortion.
Yes.
And that has raised a lot of alarms among people because, states can decide that all sorts of things are illegal and then
Yes.
start using these cameras to,
Yes.
to crack down on them.
And
Right, that's the answer
and
to the...
and one of the things is, and this kind of gets back to a almost a philosophical level, in that it's really a good example of it. Just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean you should do something. And this is, yes, it's allowed by, a lot of this is allowed by the Constitution. That's practically indisputable right now, especially just the cameras recording data. Forget about what you do with the data, but just the cameras out there recording your data. That's been ruled constitutional every time it's come up.
Right.
Now, just because it's constitutional, does that mean that law enforcement agencies across the country should do it? And there's...
Or that the communities that they serve
Right.
want them to.
One of the other things I was going to mention on this is an interesting test of real democracy in action, because it seems like we don't have a good population that votes significantly regularly, but it seems like the majority of Knox County residents aren't seeming to be too happy with this. Maybe that's just the online culture and what we live in and what the appearance is, because it's easier to complain than to praise. But it seems like the community doesn't want this. Yet here we are.
Well, and we've talked about this a lot, this issue a lot, and we should move on to other things. But one other thing I want to mention, just because, and we wrote about this last week, just as a sign of how seriously Flock or somebody is taking this, talking about looking for people in the community who might be in support of it, as opposed to raising concerns about it. There was a survey that went out, sent to, I don't know how many local phone numbers, ahead of last week's county commission meeting. I got it, showed up on my phone, and it didn't say who it was from. It was conducted by an organization that seems like it's a PAC set up to support law enforcement. Unclear who was actually doing this, but it said they were looking for people who were in favor of license plate reading cameras to go to county commission to talk about it. And they said, we just have a 2-question survey for you. And if you answer it the right way, we will help you generate a message to send to your county commissioners. And so then the first question was, kind of laid out the case for, here's all the reasons license plate readers are helpful to law enforcement. And it said, do you support them? Yes, no, or undecided. And so I clicked undecided because I wanted to see what it would do. And it ended it right there. It said, okay, thank you for your time. So I assume that if you click I support, then it would move to the next step of generate. So that was not an organic effort. Somebody was spending money to do that. I did ask the sheriff's office if they knew anything about it. I got zero response whatsoever. So I don't know if it was them or if it was Flock or somebody else with a vested interest in it. But they obviously are feeling the heat and the pressure. And as you're saying, Seth, what you're hearing from the public is very much on the whoa, hold on side. You're not hearing, and Scott, there were people who came to talk about it at commission last week. What was the balance of people who had concerns versus people who said, this sounds great, you should do it?
Well, one of the things that was interesting is a lot of people had signed up to speak, and on this topic, and quite a few did not show up. But there was only of those who spoke, and there was still a pretty decent number. I don't remember off the top of my head, maybe half a dozen, 7, 8, I don't know. But anyway, every one of them except one spoke against this. So that maybe that person,
that one person
got the survey.
Right.
I don't know, but only one person spoke in favor of these cameras. Now, obviously, that's not a scientific survey of Knox County residents' opinions, but
It's probably not far off if I will stipulate because I'm not a journalist like you two. I would stipulate that it's probably fairly accurate. To throw a feather on it too, how hard would it be to figure out what license plate number matches your phone number?
I mean, it would be hard for me to figure it out, but I'm not the sheriff's office.
Right. Just throwing that in the spiel thing.
Anyway, so enough about flock cameras. County Commission had a really, really busy day on Monday. The meeting lasted more than 4.5 hours. They did talk about the other topics. One of the things they did was they voted on first reading to approve changing the method for approving county budgets. Shane Jackson proposed doing this. This is in response. The last 2 years, somebody has come up with a last-minute amendment. Angela Russell did last year. Didn't pass. But Gina Oster did this year with the removing $4 million from the school revenues earmarked for the school system, taking those revenues away from the schools and putting them toward general government employee raises, including raises for county commissioners. Although that's a drop in the bucket, and they make so little. But anyway, of course, that has led to that and cuts at the state level in anticipated revenues, force the school system to eliminate some teaching positions, put some teachers on furlough or administrators on furloughs, and then and not just administrators. I mean, there are central office people, so a lot of them are the custodians also get put on furlough. With the knowledge that next year, because these are recurring dollars, next year it will require more teacher position reductions and those sorts of things, which made a lot of people angry. But this was a thing that came up at when they consider the budget. County Commission only votes on the budget once. The amendment was proposed. Oster proposed the amendment during that meeting, and of course said some of the magic words, which was increase the raises for county general government employees. In part because you don't know what future revenues are going to be like, and in fact, it's kind of gloom and doom about future revenues, and so if we don't give them a raise this year, they're not going to get one. A good raise. The raise is going to be up to 6%, from 3% to 6%. Anyway, there was a lot of outrage that the school budget was hit, and so what Jackson did is he proposed, okay, let's do it in 2 readings instead of 1. City of Knoxville approves its budget on 2 readings, and he said one of the things we can do, we can have the first reading is a reading where you can propose amendments, and they can be adopted at least temporarily then, and then we have a 7-day waiting period until there's a second reading. Second reading, the only things that can be amended or addressed are the amendments to the original budget. So if someone, if this came up next year, for instance, if this passes, the amendment could be raised and added to the budget proposal, but then 7 days later, it can be removed if
they get a lot of pushback. Yeah. If county commissioners kind of have time to look into it more deeply and say, no, actually, we don't want to make those changes.
Yeah. So,
and at least that there's public notification, because they do. I mean, they have a public budget hearing before the vote, which usually doesn't attract a lot of attention or a lot of commentary. But my guess is that had they had this in place this year, after they took that $4 million away from the school system, by the time it came back for a second reading a week later, they would have had a whole bunch of people down there telling them why they thought that was a bad idea and the effect it was going to have. That may or may not have changed anything,
Right.
but it would have at least provided an opportunity for feedback from the school system, from the public.
Right. One thing that happened, Commissioner Angela Russell wanted to delay the vote for I believe 30 days. So she put up a proposal to defer consideration. It led to the funny moment, the only funny moment the only real funny moment of the evening. As I said, it went 4.5 hours. This was the last agenda item. So we're talking. Commissioners have been up there for almost 4.5 hours. When they came up to vote on deferring it, Jackson actually voted to delay consideration
Of his own
ordinance, which when the Oster went through with the names, and she said, and pointed out, and everybody cracked up, including Jackson. Jackson just laughed, and they said, they are given the opportunity. Said, "Do you want to change your vote?" And he said, "No, it didn't pass anyway, so don't worry about it." So he is on record as wanting to defer consideration of his own ordinance. Anyway, but once it came up for the actual vote, it was unanimous. It was a 10-0 vote. Russell did abstain, but there were no votes against it. So it will be up next month for second reading to see if it gets final approval there. Then we had a repeal of the wheel tax that has been Larson J's windmill that he's been tilting at for about a year now, close to a year now. He had first proposed this way back when, but then did not. Kept getting deferred, and then finally. They voted on it again. This would have to be an ordinance. It was on first reading. The repeal. He wanted to repeal the wheel tax altogether in phases. Wheel tax $36 a year every time you renew your vehicle. He has a couple of reasons he wanted to do it. One was that the wheel tax was initially increased to that amount to pay for a new downtown library. That library was never built, so the funds have gone elsewhere. They've actually gone mostly to library operations.
Yeah, it was kind of like they just took library operations out of the general fund and just said, "Oh well, we'll just say that that's what the wheel tax money goes to."
So, but Jay's point is, if we don't. Because we didn't use the money for what it was intended for, the Knox County government lied to the people, and we need to make that right. He also argues that it's a form of double taxation because it is a privilege tax that motorists pay to drive on Knox County roads. I mean that's what it says it is when you look at the statute and or look at the ordinance, and he said that's double taxation, because you're paying for the privilege of driving on roads that you've already paid for through your property taxes. So he thinks,
and your gas taxes
too, yes. And so, but you've already paid for them once is the bottom line thing, and so that was his argument.
Well, and I think everybody believed when he first introduced this last fall that this was part of his campaign for county mayor, which of course he lost in the primary to Betsy Henderson in May. But I think many people perceived it as an attempt by Jay to kind of show that because he was being accused by Henderson and other people of wanting to increase property taxes sometime in the future, and so this appeared to be kind of his way to say, no, it's the only, and he made this point, the
would have if they had passed. It would have been the only the first tax cut in Knox County history, because nobody's raised the property tax rate, but nobody's cut it either. So, but it ended up. I mean, it ended up not getting enough support. One of the people that Angela Russell spoke and said, basically, your double taxation arguments are irrelevant. We get double taxed all the time. Don't don't single this one out. And but it failed. Only Terry Hill and Oster voted to repeal the tax. Everyone else voted to keep it. Yes. So from of course this was just first reading, but hey, if it fails on first reading, you don't get a second one. So it's
well, and the reason people voted against it was because the county's in extremely tight budget situation. As we were just discussing, they had to take $4 million away from the school system just to give county employees a raise. And so even though commission has a Republican majority, commission itself is certainly not a heavily pro-tax body, but they're also the people who have to balance the budget every year, and taking $16 million out of a budget that's already tight, I think a lot of them had misgivings about.
Yeah, and the optics too, after taking $4 million out of the school's budget, then and still using it. It's not like they cut it, they just moved it
they took
around.
it.
Yeah, they took it. And to turn around and forego 4 times that amount every year, I think those optics did not help.
Yeah, and for those of the body that aren't about to finish their careers, will have to deal with the shortfalls of this next cycle,
right?
And the cycle after that, at least until they all run the rest of their terms out. Or at least a handful of those people.
And this is also just one of these things where it's like, Jay doesn't have any political juice left. He lost the primary, and so he's not really in a position to generate a lot of political support.
That is true. So anyway, when you renew your tags moving forward, you're still going to have to pay $36. Now, the one argument that Jackson made against it, that was one that a lot of progressives makes, is this is a regressive tax, because your 10-year-old beat up Toyota Corolla is taxed at the same rate as a brand new Lamborghini.
Yep.
So it's, but hey, it's
or a Cybertruck. That's one. If we could put an aesthetic tax in, I would tax Cybertrucks extra, just because, I find it, I find them aesthetically offensive when I'm driving.
I would 100% agree,
They're,
but there's something about it that I enjoy the premise. It's like a concept vehicle that went into production.
Yeah,
it's ugly. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, but it's like this was the image of what the future could be now.
Yeah,
and it failed miserably, but.
Yeah, I think I read they've sold 7,000 of them so far this year. Cybertrucks are on their way out.
Are they not 7,000 of them sitting at West Town Mall right now?
Right.
There's a whole parking lot full of them at the dealership.
Yeah, they're pretty ugly. I've only seen one or two.
I've seen a good number around town. There's somebody who's got a UT one. Yeah. It's a white Cybertruck with a big orange T on the side of it.
There's a couple of apparently wrapping them and makes them more or less ugly, depends on how you wrap it, but that people have been wrapping them. So there's a black one running around town I've seen, and a green one.
I mean, any kind of wrap makes them at least look less like a big refrigerator, because that's kind of what they look like when it's just the kind of matte silver.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think our listeners anticipated having a kind of the auto critique that we're giving, but
we started.
But that's one of the reasons you should listen to us, because you never know where we're going to go.
Right, we started talking about tires and road problems, and now we're bringing on a full report and review of the Cybertruck.
Yeah, that is all that we. County Commission actually did a lot more than that, but it's all we were able to get into. During the week, one of the things that happened as well that had nothing to do with County Commission was that Tennessee, the Department of Energy, announced that Tennessee is one of 5 states that are finalists for something they're calling the Nuclear Life Cycle Innovation Campus, and it is an applied research center that they're talking about. Obviously, they're talking about Oak Ridge, but what DOE is wanting to do is modernize kind of the nuclear fuel cycle from beginning to end, and actually the nuclear fuel cycle technically, I guess technically it ends, but really it doesn't ever
That's
end.
the problem.
That's one of the problems. Anyway, there were 28 entries from 26 states. Tennessee was one of 5 finalists. Obviously, with Oak Ridge, the legacy of Oak Ridge, with not only is a weapons center, because we have, we make one of the part of the boom of nuclear weapons.
It's the nuclear stockpile for the nation.
Yeah, it's uranium stockpile.
Yep.
And of course, and what they do at Y-12 is they make secondaries. If you want to know what a secondary is, but I don't think we need to go into that right now, because he also is Oak Ridge is also home to ORNL, Oak Ridge National Laboratory, which does a lot of cutting edge research in a lot of fields. One of them is obviously still nuclear industry. So the nuclear industry, and this effort is supposed to look at everything from mining and transporting the raw materials, enriching uranium to the point it can be used, and purifying and enriching it, and the storage of it, how the forms that it goes into to be fuel. I mean, and there are all kinds of different ways you can turn it into fuel. And the sticking point really might be the long-term storage of it. The state's Democrats have already, even though Tennessee hasn't been named as a winner yet, has already been asking about that. The Governor Bill Lee and Secretary of Energy Chris Wright have said there's lots of jobs, lots of investment, and they've actually Lee's office, which saying it could provide up to 25,000 jobs. That probably is a little high, but might include jobs that are already here. But we're talking about that and billions of dollars of investment. A lot of people are putting our future energy needs, kind of betting on nuclear energy, because it produces massive amounts of energy, yet does not produce greenhouse gas emissions. I don't know if you're allowed to say greenhouse gas emissions anymore, but
Carbon.
Anyway, Tennessee. Now there are other states, obviously, that are that have a big nuclear presence. The among the states that are being considered are Idaho, Oklahoma, Utah, Louisiana. All those states are, but Tennessee is might have a leg up on most of those. Other than Idaho, there's a national lab in Idaho that does nuclear stuff. But that decision has not yet been made. One of the interesting things is if they are point to research the long-term storage of nuclear waste. Are they talking about, putting places in Tennessee?
Right.
Are they, of course, most of Tennessee's, if you're talking about underground storage of anything, Tennessee's not really the best place to do it because there's so much karst everywhere. But
we have the most caves of any state in the country.
Yeah. And so, but that's one of the things they're going to look at. It's one of the things the Democrats are real upset about. And of course, one of the things is, really in the United States, we don't have a real long-term place.
Well, and because people haven't, there were plans for one in Nevada that kept getting shot down because people didn't want it.
Well, what that has resulted in is we have de facto long-term nuclear waste storage facilities at Watts Bar Nuclear Plant,
right, on site essentially.
And because they store it on site because they can't take it anywhere.
Yep.
And so we have small scale, long term storage of nuclear waste.
And people have proposed things like sending it into space, but then people don't want to do that because what if the rocket blows up? It's basically so far anyway, and maybe this is whether it's Oak Ridge or wherever this nuclear campus goes, but maybe this is what they can figure out.
Really?
Is just that we haven't come up with a way that people feel comfortable about having the stuff nearby.
Yeah. So anyway, we may not have to worry about that at all because Tennessee is a finalist, but it is not the selection. So we will find out when DOE makes their decision. The other thing that happened is we're going to kind of segue to next week because this happens because it's election time. The early voting ended Saturday, as we said, or will have ended Saturday.
Whatever verb tense that
is. Subject verb agreements.
Future past perfect, something like that.
Yeah, subject verb agreements really difficult when you record on Friday. And you're talking about events that happen on Saturday or Sunday. Saturday was the last day of early voting. The turnout so far isn't great. I would say I don't think it would be. One would call it great, but anyway, the turnout's been about 16% so far. Turnout has ticked up a little bit now that we were in the last couple of days. Extended hours on Friday, actually Thursday and Friday. And then Saturday, they open a little bit longer than usual on Saturdays. So, there were two of the three highest turnout days were Wednesday and Thursday of last week. So, we're getting over 4,000 a day Friday, while we will know by the time you hear this. We don't know now. It could have reached 5,000 as far as the turnout goes. It'd be possible. And that's a pretty good turnout for these locations. Now, one of the things we talked about is how that breaks down. About about 60% of the ballots are people who are voting in the Republican state and federal primary. About 40% of the Democratic primary, and a handful, only 575 as of Wednesday or Thursday of last week, are voting only in the county election. But we don't know. That seems to indicate, of course, that there be a lot more Republicans voting. But you don't have to vote. When you're voting in the county election, you don't have to vote party line. You don't have to. You vote for Republicans, but you can vote in the Republican primary, but vote for Democratic candidate. For the state or federal offices.
Yeah, and there could be some people who are Republicans who are also going to vote for a Democrat in a particular local race just because they like that person or they don't like the Republican. So it does it makes it hard.
And it works the other way too.
Sure.
It works the other way too. Democrats are they're kind of optimistic about some of these races. they are pretty optimistic that Catherine Bach, the 4th District school board representative, will be able to hold on to her seat. She was
which she barely won 4 years ago.
Yeah, barely won 4 years ago. It's an interesting district. It runs from Sequoia Hills, which is kind of a Democratic stronghold now, mostly south of I-40, all the way out to Bluegrass. So you've got these Democratic areas there in Bearden that are in the district, but then you also have the Bluegrass area, which is pretty strongly Republican, and the Dean Hill area, which is strongly Republican, and is a high turnout precinct. So, but they're a little optimistic there. They're also optimistic in the 9th District. The
school board
race there. Brandy Jenkins is Democrat running against Bill Sofield, who's a Republican. Sofield defeated the incumbent Christy Christie in the primary, kind of a surprise outcome. And so, but Jenkins is one that they think is a possible, and also the 3rd District county commission race, which Gina Oster, the commission chair, was the incumbent, and she lost very, very narrowly again to Sherry Super, who's going to be a right-wing culture warrior. Oster kind of got primaried in the primary, and but then Brandon Huckabee is the Democrat running against Super, and this district is one of those that's very, very close all the time. Anyway, Oster had barely won herself 4 years ago.
And that district elected a Democratic school board member 2 years ago, so it is at least in play.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now, I don't know. Of course, we have at the top of the ticket there, we have the county mayor's race. We do have a couple of at-large county commission races that are competitive. Democrats have a harder time with county-wide seats.
I mean, they haven't won a county-wide seat since
2000.
I think Randy Nichols was the last one, right? 2006 as a
well, no, I was
SDA.
thinking that the clerk back, Mike. Oh, anyway, it's been a long time because we can't
Paget,
Mike Paget. Yes, it's been a long time. It's been
we forget these things.
It's been a couple of decades. We're old guys. Yeah. But it's been a couple of decades since the Democrat has won countywide races. But they have gotten a little bit tighter lately. Not much, but a little bit tighter.
Well, and a lot of that will, and we're just not going to know this until the election, obviously. But the who is coming out to vote? It's not right. Like we're not going to get a majority of Knox County voters voting. I don't think, and so who actually shows up, and that's just looking at what primary ballots they're taking gives you some indication for sure, but especially in the local races, that's not an absolute indicator.
Well, it gives you an idea. Well, it could give you an idea, but not an absolute indicator of county-wide races.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily give you an indicator of specific
district races.
Districts.
Yep.
And you look at the overall number. Now, if they come out with, district-specific numbers, which they did at the midway point, then maybe we could, be better at prognosticating then. But
I will say that I went back and looked at the turnout from 4 years ago and 8 years ago in this election, and we're way ahead of where the turnout was in 2022, which is not surprising because that was, you had at the local level, Glenn Jacobs running for re-election, at the state level, Bill Lee running for re-election. Neither one of them had competitive primaries. And so I think that kept the Republican turnout down a little bit in 2022. And actually Democrats locally did pretty well in the local races in 2022. Debbie Helsley, I think got like 45% of the vote for county mayor. So I think we're going to have more Republicans are maybe more motivated because they do have a competitive gubernatorial primary, especially. Yes. I think that's the thing driving the top line Republican turnout. But we are also running ahead a little bit of where we were in 2018, which is the last time that there was a competitive, an open seat for county mayor, an open seat for governor. And at that point,
we had a Senate seat on that one too, right?
Yeah, and a Senate
So
seat.
we had a big top ticket on that one for sure.
Total early voting and absentee voting in 2018 was about 46,000. We're already at about 43,000 through Thursday, with Friday and Saturday still to come. So I think it's pretty definite that we're going to have a higher turnout, at least in the early and absentee ballots, than we did in 2018. We just don't know by how much yet.
Yeah, and now one thing is, of course, that we've been talking about early voting. Election Day is coming up Thursday. Polls will be open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. If people want to learn about the candidates, they have not been paying a whole lot of attention, but need to turn their attention that way now. Our coverage of the races is out from behind our paywall. You can go to CompassKnox.com and check on our profiles of candidates in all of the races. They're local races that are going to be on the ballot. You can share those with people and all that good stuff. And also go to knoxvotes.org, which is the Election Commission's website, and they will have all kinds of information about things like, if you don't know where you're supposed to vote, because you have to vote in your precinct, not at an early voting location if you vote on Thursday. And you can look up you can put in your address and find out where you're supposed to go vote if you don't know. And there are some new places, so it's probably not a bad idea, especially in West Knoxville or in West Knox County, to look that up to make sure you go to the right place.
Before we get off the election topic, do we want to do the gambler in me can't help myself, but Double or Nothing, our primary conversation. I've got some sheets of paper. We're going to write a couple of down in here. We'll pack them up, and then next week we'll see if I'm right again.
Sure, we can do that.
We won't announce it because we didn't do that. We got to do the same format we did last time. I just wanted all right, cool. I just wanted to throw that in there.
I can't do any worse than I did in the primary. So.
Yeah, really. No doubt.
That's why I'm feeling like I'm on a gambler's high over here. I gotta ride it out.
All right. Anyway, we have, that is, the election will be the big news next week. And that's it's given. Will be not only have we already covered things leading up to the election, we'll have a coverage from election night, an analysis of how the vote went the way it went once we know how it goes, and it won't be just us speculating anymore. We will have data provided by the voters to determine that. Now, the election isn't the only thing going on next week. The school board is meeting on Monday. This is a change from usual, because they usually meet on Monday for of the week that they have their voting meeting. They meet on Monday to talk about the agenda items, and then on Thursday they usually meet for their voting session. Because of the election, they are not going to do that. The school board is meeting on Monday, and it is going to be at 5:00 at the normal time, 5:00 at the Summer Place boardroom in downtown Knoxville. The big things that are going to be on there, big things going to be on there, is they're having their library materials policy. They're revising that to basically make the school board have the final word on materials that are allowed and not allowed in the school libraries. Those are the main things. They do have a couple of interesting, kind of weird rezoning things. They've got one, they're rezoning one property from one school to another. One house.
Yeah, I think it's moving from Bearden Elementary to Sequoia Elementary.
Yeah.
Somebody must have just requested that. I don't know.
I couldn't remember Bearden to Sequoia to Bearden, but the according to what they had in the materials, the property used to be subdivided, and so the district went along with the subdivision line, or was going to be subdivided, something like that. Anyway, never happened. There's only one house on it, so they want to make the lines a little bit, work out a little bit better, a little bit straighter. Family knows it. They've talked to them. There is a family there with elementary school age kids. They know. They're okay with it. So it's moving forward. There's another rezoning in South Knox County where there is a piece of property where they're building an apartment complex. Half of it is designated for Bonnie Kate and the other for New Hopewell. And what they're going to do is make all of it zoned for Bonnie Kate.
Right, because I think there's more room at Bonnie
There
Kate.
is more room at Bonnie Kate. It's interesting. The only it's a multi-building project. I think 3 buildings in the project. The building on the parcel that's already zoned for Bonnie Kate is completed. The other 2 aren't. So it's not going to displace any students who currently do. In fact, the other one's complete, but it's not open yet, I don't think. So not really displacing students anyway, but everybody, after the Powell rezoning, a lot of people might go, oh, rezoning, well, there are a couple on the agenda, but neither one appears to be very controversial at all.
And to be clear, they are voting on Monday, right?
They are voting on Monday.
They're essentially
Monday's
dispensing with the Monday workshop and just doing a Monday regular voting meeting.
Yes, and probably the items that will get the most discussion. The item that will get the most discussion is the school library materials policy. But basically, right now, of course, there's a committee that decides whether or not a book should be removed from library shelves, which complies with state law. It'll be interesting to see kind of how this works with state law, but now the school board gets the...
Well, and I think my impression was that the school administration decided to set up this whole policy and process the way it did in order to protect the school board from having to weigh in on these. Kind of like, well, we'll take care of it administratively and the school board doesn't have to worry about it. And then, of course, when we had the controversy over Roots being removed, the book Roots being removed back in May, and Superintendent John Ryswick had to come out and overrule that and return that book to the shelves. I think a lot of school board members were frustrated because suddenly everybody was yelling at them about something that they had no role in, didn't even know about until after it had happened, and also had no spelled out way to do anything about, even though they are the school board and they are actually ultimately responsible for governing the district. So I think what they're doing here is reinserting themselves in the process and just which, they are the elected representatives. Yeah, that might mean that there's going to be times where there's a hard call for them to make and people might still get mad at them. But if they do, at least it'll be for a decision they actually made instead of for something they didn't have any role in.
Yeah. Well, that's going to happen Monday. On Tuesday, City Council is going to be meeting 6:00, main assembly room of the City County building, which is normal. The big things on the agenda is there are 2 charter changes, which they are proposed charter changes. These would be, if these pass on 2 readings, would go before voters in the November election for their approval. There are going to be 2 proposed amendments that they're going to consider. They have to prove it first before these get on the ballot. One is supported by a majority of council members. It looks like it'll breeze through. It would change the city's election ordinances to say that currently the candidates for mayor and for municipal judge, if they get more than half the vote in the primary, they are automatically declared the winner and do not have to run in a general election.
Because the primary is nonpartisan.
Yeah, primaries are nonpartisan. The same does not go for city council races. that you now up until last year it was pretty good reason for that, because the district races were district only in the primary, citywide in the general election. Now they're only primary voters or only district voters vote in both the primary and general election. But at large, of course, it's the same. But even so, at large members, if they got more than half the vote in the primary, they still had to run again in the general election.
Right, which means we have often had situations where you literally, when you only have two candidates, you literally end up running the same election twice.
Right.
With the same voters, same candidates, you just have to do it twice.
Yeah, well, this charter amendment would change that, where you would go ahead and if any city council member, any city council race got more than half the vote, they would not have to run in the general election. Basically, a general election would be just a runoff.
Which might mean you could get a general election that only has like one city council race on it,
or none,
right?
None
would be better than one, because imagine being like, let's say it's the 5th district, which is where I live, which tends to have somewhat low turnout anyway. Like if that was the only thing on the ballot, it could be hard to get anybody to pay attention to actual voting day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So. And I don't know how much that would save. One of the things that they were saying is that, well, if you don't have to do that, you can save money. Well, maybe. Well, actually, you would, because in the general election, instead of having to set up precincts all over the city, they only have a handful to set up within that district.
Right.
So it would save money.
Unless it was an at-large seat, because then you could be running a citywide race for literally one city council seat.
That's true.
Anyway, I understand the discussion, because it has often seemed kind of weird to just kind of run,
to say the least. I'd say silly.
Yeah.
But now Councilwoman Amelia Parker has proposed a charter change as well.
He wants that tiebreaker.
Yes,
Figure out that tiebreaker.
She's adding the tiebreaker to it, and what her proposed solution to the tiebreaker thing. Of course, anybody doesn't remember, first time she ran for city council, she finished in a tie for second in the 2nd district race, and city council decided that
4th district.
I'm sorry, 4th district race,
2017,
and city council broke that tie by putting her opponent.
Yeah, they just picked the person they liked best.
Yeah, and so she got cut out. What her proposal is that if there is a tie for second in the primary, that all 3 candidates move forward to the general election. So,
which I think, there was a lot of discussion about this in 2017 when we had that unusual situation where she tied for second with Harry Tyndall. I always thought that exactly what she's proposing made the most sense.
It does. Yeah.
It's like, how else, whether city council does it because they like somebody or if they flip a coin or whatever, you're still taking that vote away from the people and giving it to members of city council.
Right.
That doesn't seem like a great solution.
Yeah. Right? And as far as if there's going to be a runoff, and her proposal also has the 50+1% threshold, which means, if there is going to be a runoff, it doesn't cost any more to have 3 names on the ballot than 2. That's the cost is really in setting up the precinct, not the number of names on the ballot.
Right. And if somebody in that scenario got more, like if they pass the 50% plus 1, just lets you win, then it gets you out of the situation where, say, somebody wins 54% of the vote, and the other 2 candidates tie by splitting the remainder. It wouldn't matter because the person with 54% of the vote just wins automatically, and you wouldn't have the runoff at all.
Right. Now, this only works when the top voter getter has a plurality but not a majority. So anyway, they're going to vote on that on Tuesday. That's the big issue before council Then, as I said, Election Day is the big day next week. We'll have full coverage, and we'll talk about it interminably probably next week when we get back here for Compass Points. I want to thank Will Wright for providing music, for Lord Seth Barber for his engineering prowess. Thanks, Jesse. As always, pleasure talking with you about politics stuff. And we'll be back. Thanks to listen for the people who are listening to us as well. So, and we'll be back to chat with you about Knox County and Knoxville politics, business, and all that good stuff next week on Compass Points.
CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more. And many thanks to William Wright for composing our theme song. Compass Points is a partnership of Barking Shark Media and Barbarian Productions, and recorded by Lord Seth A. Barber at Barbarian Studios, Knoxville, Tennessee.